Welcome to Dev Mindset, where product development meets project management and skill growth. Join us as we dive into the mindset behind every tech success. Let's get started.
Ever feel like you're just, I don't know, running in place, like on one of those treadmills, you're putting in the effort, you're working hard, but you're not really getting anywhere? It's the worst. But hey, that's why we're here. Today we're diving deep into something that might just change the game for you. SMART goals.
And the cool thing is, this isn't some new, life hack or anything. SMART goals have been around forever because they actually work. We're talking like boardrooms of Fortune 500 companies all the way to, like you said, just trying to plan your weekend.
Okay, so this is legit then, not just another one of those buzzwords that sounds good but doesn't deliver.
Nope, this is the real deal. Think way back to the 1980s. We had big hair, shoulder pads, and boom, SMART goals were born.
Yeah.
And it's deceptively simple, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. That's it.
Okay, 80s nostalgia aside, I am all about what works. So break it down for me, starting with specific. What's that all about?
Specificity is all about ditching those vague wishes. Like, I want to be successful. Who doesn't? Instead, we're talking, I want to land a leadership position at my company within the next 2 years. See, totally different vibe.
Night and day. One's a wish upon a star, the other's, well, it sounds like a plan.
Exactly. And to get specific, our source material actually suggests using the 5 W's. Just like a journalist, right? What,
yeah.
why, who, where, and which.
Ooh, I like that. Putting our journalist hats on, gotta love some good investigative reporting, but for our own goals this time. Makes sense though, right? How can you, hit a target if you don't know what you're aiming at?
Exactly. It's about clarity. And the example they use is, let's say you're a marketing executive and you've got your sights set on becoming a head of marketing. We're not talking about just daydreaming about that corner office. We're talking about outlining every single skill and experience you'll need to get there.
Okay, so we've nailed down the specific part, but what about tracking your progress? Because personally, I am all about celebrating those small wins along the way to stay motivated.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where Measurable comes in. It's about transforming those vague hopes into something concrete, something you can track.
Yeah.
So instead of, I want to learn more, it's, by December, I will have completed that online marketing course. Or instead of, I want to save money, it's, I will have saved $5,000 by next June. You got to have those milestones.
Ooh, I love that. It's like, I don't know, leveling up in a video game, but for your actual life, which is way cooler.
And speaking of cool, you're always super driven by results, which is fantastic. And that's exactly what measurable goals give you. Remember our aspiring head of marketing from before? Well, they gave themselves a 5-year time frame to gain all the experience they needed for the role. Now, that's what I call measurable.
5 years, huh? That's a good chunk of time. But it makes sense. Although, and maybe this is just me, but sometimes I think we get a little ahead of ourselves, right? We set these crazy, ambitious goals, but then life happens and it's like, whoa, how am I supposed to do all that? Is that where the achievable part comes in? Like giving ourselves a reality check.
You hit the nail on the head. It's about finding that balance between, like, dreaming big, but also keeping it real. It's about asking yourself tough questions, like, do I actually have the time for this? What about resources? Can I afford this? Financially speaking. You got to be honest with yourself.
Ooh, that's real talk right there.
Yeah.
And speaking of real talk, our source material doesn't sugarcoat it. They straight up ask, do you have what it takes to achieve this goal? It's so easy to get caught up in the excitement of a new goal, but ignoring the practical side of things, that's a recipe for, well, disaster.
And that brings us to relevant. Because what's the point of achieving something, even if it's achievable, if it's not even something you care about, right? It has to matter to you.
It's like, what's that saying? Don't climb the ladder of success, only to realize, once you get to the top, that it's been leaning against the wrong wall this whole time.
Ouch. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a painful one. And that's exactly what this whole relevant thing is trying to help us avoid. It's about really looking at your goals and making sure they line up with, well, you.
Yeah.
Your values, your passions, the big picture of your life. Like, does this goal actually light you up inside? Or is it something you think you should want?
Oh, that's good. Because, yeah, what's the point of putting in all this effort if at the end of the day, it's not even something that matters to you,
Exactly. And here's another thought, and our source material touches on this too, It's not always just about us,
Yeah.
right? Like we don't exist in a vacuum. They actually even mentioned thinking about our partner's goals, which I thought was really interesting.
Oh, that's a really good point. It's about finding that balance, right?
Right.
Like where your ambitions and the needs of the people you care about, where those things overlap. Which isn't to say that your goals can't be, I don't know, a little selfish sometimes.
Totally. We all need a little me time, right?
Yeah.
But this relevant thing, it's like a gentle nudge to think bigger,
Yeah.
to consider the ripple effects of our choices.
Okay, I'm into it. It's like a more holistic way of looking at goal setting. And I hate to be a downer here, but let's be real for a sec. We could have the most amazing, well-defined, super relevant goal in the world. But without a deadline, it's way too easy to just let it sit there and simmer on the back burner forever. Which I think brings us to our final piece of the SMART puzzle. Time bound.
And this is huge because let's be honest, without a deadline, procrastination is like our best friend, right?
Ugh, don't even get me started. I'm the queen of... Oh yeah, I'll get to that later, which we all know really means maybe someday when I have unlimited time and energy, which is like never.
And that's where our friend Timebound comes in to save the day
Mm-hmm.
because it injects this much needed sense of urgency. It's like that little voice in your head that's like, hey, you, yeah, you, get moving. Time is ticking.
And I love how our source material actually gives us these really helpful questions to break it down even further, right? Like when? Okay, but when? What can I realistically accomplish in the next 6 months? Okay, what about 6 weeks? What can I literally do today to get this ball rolling? It's like taking this big, maybe kind of scary goal and breaking it down into bite-sized pieces.
Exactly. It's about transforming that initial, burst of motivation we all get into, like actual sustained action.
Yeah.
And that's the key. It's not just about setting the goal. It's about putting systems in place that actually support you in achieving it.
Which, let's be honest, that's where a lot of us stumble, right? Like it's fun to get excited about the end goal, but actually staying motivated, sticking with it, day after day, that's a whole other thing. But it sounds like SMART goals, they give you the tools you need to do that. What do you think? Would you say this framework guarantees success? Which, let's be honest, that's where a lot of us stumble, right? Like, it's fun to get excited about the end goal, but actually staying motivated, sticking with it, day after day, it's a whole other thing. But it sounds like SMART goals, they give you the tools you need to do that. What do you think? Would you say this framework, guarantees success?
Guarantee is a strong word, wouldn't you say? It's more like, think of it like this, okay? SMART goals, they're like having a super high performance car, right? You've got speed, you've got handling, you've got the power to get where you need to go faster, but you're still the one behind the wheel. You still need to steer, navigate, maybe even change a flat tire every now and then. Life happens, you know what I mean?
Okay, I am loving this analogy. Keep going. So it's not about magically making all the obstacles disappear, right? It's more like you've got the roadmap now and you've got a really awesome car to help you navigate those bumps along the way.
You got it. And just like any good roadmap, it's not about setting it in stone and never looking at it again, right?
Yeah.
You got to check in, reassess, maybe even make some adjustments along the way. And that's actually where those variations on SMART goals come in, like the whole smarter thing we talked about before, adding the evaluated and reviewed in there too.
Right, right. So it's not about being rigid. It's about being flexible and adapting as you go.
Exactly. You're building in these moments to pause, to reflect, and be like, okay, is this still working?
Huh.
Are the things I'm doing actually getting me closer to where I want to be? Or do I need to tweak my approach a bit? Because that's the thing, growth isn't always linear. It's messy. It's about learning and adapting as you go.
Okay, I love that. It's like having a feedback loop built right in. So for our listeners out there who are ready to ditch the whole, running in place thing and actually take the wheel, what would you say? What's the one thing they should take away from all of this?
Don't overthink it. Just pick something, anything you've been wanting to do, whether it's a personal project, a career goal, heck, even just a new habit you want to form.
Yeah.
And try applying the SMART framework to it. See what happens.
Exactly. You don't have to be perfect. Just start somewhere. You might be surprised at what you can achieve when you really put your mind to it and you've got, a solid plan to guide you.
Couldn't agree more. And hey, if you try out SMART goals and it's just not your thing, that's totally fine. The most important thing is to find what works for you, what lights you up, and what helps you create the life you want.
So well said. And on that note, I think we've done our deep dive for today. But for all of you listening, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep reaching for those goals, no matter how big or small. Until next time.
Thanks for being here. Subscribe to Dev Mindset and join us again next time.